morning, team. Happy Monday. Mr. McCarthy here again with a new leadership insight that, as usual, I'm going to post over the next couple of weeks in pieces, bite-sized pieces that we can really digest and think about and put to action, hopefully. And it's a really interesting topic today. It's around language and conversations and the power of language and conversations as a leadership tool. So I call it distinctions in language between descriptive and creative. So we are socialized to use language descriptively as a means to describe the world around us. In this case, the purpose of language is to describe things and events as accurately as possible. In relating to language like this, we forget that it's also an incredibly powerful tool for leadership and for co-creation, as I call it. So there are things in the world that exist independent of language. I'll give you an example. An airplane. An airplane, for example, exists and has a common purpose no matter what we call it. Whatever language you want to use from around the world that describes or says the word airplane, that airplane exists no matter what we call it. When change is required for the class of objects that exists independent of language, when we have to change something about airplane, we interact with them through force. We move them, we move around them, we make physical changes to them, right? But there's also categories of things that exist only in language. So here's some interesting examples. Freedom, love, beauty, for example. And in the case of these things that are dependent on language for their very existence, causing change requires something other than physical interaction. It requires a way of speaking for and listening for in order to bring new possibilities into existence and evoke, different actions around that. So, like freedom or love or beauty, teams, corporations, businesses, and the cultures within them are also highly dependent on language for their existence. Without language, conversations regarding, the team, the school, the company, the culture, there is no substance. There's simply the artifacts of the company, the building, the walls, the mats, the wave masters, the computer. We change things that exist through language, not by using physical force, but by changing our conversations. This alters our relationship with the reality, right? Created by speaking and listening. This is why initiatives to change culture or accountability or leadership or results that don't include learning to practice the elements of language as creative either fail or produce results far below expectations. Not all communications are an opportunity to practice language as co-creation. To establish standards, give directions or instructions, it's important to have accurate, precise descriptions. In order for people to understand, explanations may be necessary. These conversations are kind of past and present based. When we're creating something new, however, especially something that hasn't been done before, a different kind of conversation is required. And that kind of speaking, declaring new possibilities, designing, generating, rather than describing a physical thing, that's future-based, right? So recognizing the distinction between language as descriptive and language as creative allows you to shape that future. It allows you to listen intently and intentionally. And when you practice, with the power of creative language, and you distinguish speech acts that you're using, I call them speech acts, you can consciously shape the future that you're driving for. It's fundamental. It's a fundamental leadership and change practice that allows you to really articulate commitments, invoke better coordination, reduce misunderstandings that prevent companies and teams and businesses and individuals from really realizing their potential. So I want to go through a quick list of creative speech acts as powerful parts of conversation. First one is expressing, speaking and listening on behalf of what you and others are committed to, right? Listening with appreciation for what others have to contribute. Then there's declaring, bringing forth a possibility for the future or the present by saying so, right? For standing for what you say. Asserting is the next one. Saying something is so, right? Standing for the validity of what you say, being willing to provide evidence to support your assertion. The next is promising. Commitment to full specified conditions, right? So satisfying, a particular thing by a particular time. The next is requesting, asking another to fulfill specified conditions, right? Satisfying them by a particular time. The next is offering, so bringing yourself forth to provide specified conditions by a particular time. The next is proposing, so that's declaring a result or a course of action to move something forward, which others can then, align themselves with, or even maybe counter-propose. And the final is inviting, presenting an opportunity for participation with you in a specific kind of goal or activity. So we've got expressing, declaring, asserting, promising, requesting, offering, proposing, and inviting. And when you start to see these different types of conversations as ways to create a new future, and you start to be able to pick the one that you need to use in order to drive the conversation forward, it's extremely, extremely powerful. So next week, I'm going to go into some more examples of each of these types of kind of speech acts in conversations and talk a little bit more about this subject overall. So for now, thanks again for listening. And as always, let me know if you enjoyed the video. And if there's any kind of feedback or questions, I'm always happy to take them and have a conversation. Okay? Thanks.